Hello guys, my name is Igor. I am security engineer and penetration tester at TechMagic, and today I would like to present you actually my work related to implementation of AWS WAF Security Automations on the project. We will walk through the solution itself, and later I will show you one more component that were added actually in a custom way. It's called AWS WAF for AWS Lambda for WAF monitoring. So you will be able to review it and use in your own environment in order to actually simplify the monitoring of multiple AWS WAF instances and actually to have all the latest updates from your WAF and actually use them in order to enhance protections. A few words about myself. So, as I said, I am a security engineer at TechMagic and has previous experience in test automation, security testing automation. I am also a contributor of WASP API Top 10. I was a speaker on several meetups, both at WASP and actually AWS User Group Review. In my spare time, I continuously improve my skills, passing different certifications, sharing knowledge with other people, and actually take part in different CTF competitions where I have a chance to practice my skills and actually to learn something new. So, a brief agenda of this meeting. We will start from the AWS WAF Security Automations solution overview. Then we move to the key steps in successful implementation of this solution. After that, we will talk about some tips and tricks for further improvements and how to make this solution more effective and actually to match your needs. We also cover AWS WAF logs parser Lambda that is used for AWS WAF instances monitoring. And then there will be a small demo in order to show how it works. So we will start from the solution overview and actually let's briefly remind ourselves what is AWS WAF. So AWS WAF is a managed web application firewall that helps us to protect web application as the application layer from common web exploits that actually can be used to attack the application and compromise its security or consume some excessive resources. If you are talking about the structure of a typical AWS WAF instance, then we have our main component. It's called web ACL, access control list. Then inside this access control list, we have our rule groups or even individual rules that actually helps us to recognize some malicious patterns in the captured traffic. We also have IP sets that helps us to block some malicious IPs. And in case we want to add some AWS managed protection, we can add actually managed rule groups that already has some best practices and cover some specific need, such as protecting from common CVE or protecting from different WASP top 10 threats. If you're talking about where we can apply this. That's actually application load balancer, AppSync, API gateway, and CloudFront. So we can connect associate our web ACL with these resources and use our web ACL to protect actually application from being attacked by malicious actors. But as you may know, deploying AWS WAF from scratch, it's actually not an easy task, and you probably need some guidance. And in some cases, when you don't have your own rules, it is important to have some like baseline template from which you can start, and then you will extend it with your custom rules, actually modify existing rules and adapt it to your needs. So that's why we have AWS WAF Security Automation solution. It is easy to integrate because it contains existing sets of rules and actually all required components that can be used and that can be deployed all together using CloudFormation template. So you can start with this solution in minutes. Then you can easily attach it to your cloud front or application load balancer. And once deployed, actually this solution and created web ACL helps to actually intercept web requests, web traffic, and analyze it. And once some malicious requests are detected, it will automatically block it or otherwise work according to the rule actions. It also helps you to have a comprehensive logging and monitoring capabilities, so you can easily track your changes and actually capture it requests and then use it in order to enhance your protections and actually learn from attackers. If you're talking about pricing, it depends because you can deploy this solution in different ways. You can enable some custom functions. For example, there is a rule called scanners and props that can use AWS Lambda for actually parsing web application requests. And if there are some 400 response codes or so on, and they reach some certain number of calls, then this IP will be automatically blocked by Lambda and added to IP blacklist. So next time, our actually IP blacklist rule will help to automatically block requests from this IP and prevent them from reaching our server. It also has an opportunity to use Amazon Athena for querying actually AWS WAF logs and determining some malicious IP addresses that should be blocked. And as a result, depending on how you configure your solution, it will cost you or more or less, depending on number of components deployed. But here you can see some general calculations regarding all the components. We have AWS S3, we have AWS Lambda, and then Amazon API Gateway. We have standard rates from our AWS Web ACL. Actually, per each rule, we also will pay $4. And actually, by analyzing 1 million of requests, it will cost us around 60 cents. So you can see some general calculations also on the solution main page on AWS website. You will be able to see some different configurations and probably better understand how it works and what you can expect in terms of costs. Here is one more like calculations depending on how many rules we have. So we can standard rate for our web ACL per month. We also have actually 8 rules in this case and one managed rule groups. So we have total billable rules, 9 total billable rules per web ACL, and this adds us $9 additional per month. We also have calculations for number of requests that were processed by AWS WAF, and at the end of the day, we have our monthly cost estimated. That depends on our configuration. But as I said, if you want to know more and if you want to actually better understand some possible costs that you can pay for this solution, you should go to the solution webpage and actually review different configuration options and estimated pricing. Now let's talk a bit more about the solution architecture itself. So at the core of it, we have our AWS WAF instance and actually our web ACL. We also have our rules that are deployed by default when you actually use the provided template by solution authors. And then we have like different components that helps us to work with our traffic and actually analyze it to enhance protection. So application logs are stored, access logs are stored on Amazon S3, and then, as I said, they can be used by scanners and prompts Lambda parser that analyzes these logs and actually helps to determine some malicious IP addresses that are causing a lot of server errors or providing invalid payload to actually our application, and that's why we can easily block them and define the rate how many requests from one IP should be submitted in order to be added to the blacklist. Then we have HTTP flat protection rule. It is a rate-based rule that also helps us to define some max number of large requests per 5 minutes and actually then block this traffic from actually conducting some type of denial of service attack. We also have one interesting rule called IP reputation list. It uses some external resources for threat intelligence and constantly on hourly basis updates its actual list of malicious IP addresses. Then it uses this list of IP addresses to block requests from them. And that's why we constantly have up-to-date list of possible threats and can react to them effectively. As you can see, primarily it can be used with Amazon CloudFront or actually application load balancer, but you can also attach it to Amazon API Gateway and then also monitor your serverless endpoints in order to protect them as well. If you're talking about some additional components, it can be Amazon Athena, or actually it can be Amazon Kinesis Data Firehose, but it is more used for WAF logs parsing and actually trying to extract some useful analytics from them. And based on these analytics, you can then or modify your rules or actually work on the further protection measures and better understand your attackers. So if you're talking about AWS WAF rules that we can get out of the box, these are SQL injection rule, cross-site scripting. Then we have HTTP flood prevention, scanners and probes that we already discussed. Also, we have IP reputation list that uses some external threat intelligence services for blocking, and we have bots and scrappers that also helps us to protect from some automatic scans and actually do not allow them to reach our backend. And from my own experience, it is more than enough to start because later you can just work on these rules, modify them, and adapt to your needs. Next important topic is how to achieve a successful implementation of this solution on the project. And let's review some key steps. So first of all, you need to deploy the solution from CloudFormation template. Then you can modify allowed and denied sets. So you can write from the start add some IPs that should be blacklist and as well allowed. It can be, for example, if you have a corporate proxy and you should allow traffic from this proxy to your web application, you can add this to whitelist and all the requests will be by default passed to the server without any further inspection by the AWS WAF rules. You can also deploy some honeypot, and actually it will help you to collect more data regarding how the potential attackers try to exploit your application, which methods they are using, and actually will help to better understand how you can protect and what should you do in order to make your defense more successful against these types of attacks. Once the solution is deployed, you should associate the web ACL with your web application. It can be an application load balancer, CloudFront distribution, or it can be Amazon API Gateway endpoint. And final step, in order to receive AWS WAF logs, you should configure web actually access logging that is related to your application, but later you can enable AWS WAF logs as well. So you will be able to capture AWS WAF traffic and later analyze it. If you're talking about the rules, they are more than enough to start, but you should remember that when you deploy this solution and you start using it, there might be a situation when the default rules will block valid traffic, and because of this, you won't be able to use your application. In order to prevent this, you should start from count mode. So in this mode, a rule will analyze the traffic. If there are some malicious patterns that match your rule template, they will be detected by AWS WAF, but the request itself won't be blocked. So it will reach the application server. And it will help you to observe some actually valid traffic that is blocked by default by AWS WAF, and modify your rules in order to not block some valid requests, but instead concentrate on a really malicious traffic that contains different exploits and that is used by attackers to attack the application itself. If you're talking about rules that require such modification, they are HTTP flat rate-based rule, also scanners and props rules that we have already discussed. Then we have SQL injection rule and security automations XSS rule. All of them can cause issues with actually your application, and that's why you should be careful and start probably from count mode, and then once all the rules are properly configured, you can return back to the block mode, and WAF will be effectively blocking malicious requests from reaching out the application server. Next step, we partially covered it on the previous slides. It's related to AWS WAF instance logging, because AWS WAF logs are very useful when you want to analyze the traffic, and by default, there are such thing called sampled requests that will allow you to review captured by AWS WAF request for the last 3 hours, but in many situations, you probably will need like more logs in order to understand how efficient is your AWS WAF and to add required changes. For this, we have these filter options. So we do not probably want to log all the traffic, but instead concentrate on the rules that block or count malicious requests without blocking them. And you should keep them in logs. And by default, all other requests should be dropped from logs, so you won't have a lot of like noisy requests that will not contain some useful information for you. When you finish actually adding these filters, you will be able to save the changes, and after that, all requests that were blocked or counted by AWS WAF rules, they will be logged to the destination. It can be CloudWatch, it can be Amazon S3 bucket, or some other solution, and later you will be able to use these logs and actually process them as well. When you have a lot of rules and you do not want to actually track all of them, or some default filters like block and count are not enough for you and do not cover all your needs, you can utilize rule labels. It is an effective mechanism that allows you to add some custom labels, as you can see at the right top corner of the screen. And actually, by using these labels, you can later apply them when setting up your log filter. And by utilizing this approach, you will be able to reduce number of logs, but in the same time keep logs that are most interested for you, and extend possible options for your filter, because by default you have a rule action, and there is also one more option that is definitely not enough for you to effectively use this WAF logging feature and actually get some useful analytics from these logs. Once you have some base version of your AWS WAF, and actually you have established it baseline in terms of rules, so they do not block some valid requests, and instead they concentrate on really malicious traffic, there will be like a continuous improvement process. So at this stage, you will monitor your rules on a regular basis. then identify rules that block valid traffic, because there are a lot of situations when some new features can lead to the point when valid requests from users are blocked, and this should be fixed by adding changes to the rules themselves. And also, you should, with adding new rules, you should also take care about your log filter, in order to actually see how you can effectively log detected by rules requests, and use them later for some threat intelligence purpose, and monitor the general state of your WAF, and detect attacks that were conducted by different malicious actors. As I said, it is continuous process, so there are no some endpoint, because you can continuously improve your rules as attack evolve their methods and exploits, and that's why it's important to constantly keep your eye on all the latest trends, and actually modify your protections accordingly. Now, if you are talking about some tips and tricks that I had from real projects where we actually had the chance to implement this solution, one of them is Elements Cloud, is actually B2B solution as a service platform that helps you, software as a service platform that helps you to visualize and organize business processes. And actually, it also has enough capabilities to organize your Salesforce orgs, and actually get some useful analytics from them, effectively manage them, and actually track all the changes in order to stay effective, and actually use your Salesforce orgs in the most efficient way. So if you are talking about tips and tricks that we learned from this project when we were working on implementing the AWS WAF Security Automation solutions, they are use rule labels that we already discussed, because it will help you to extend standard filter options and have more possible ways on how to monitor only traffic and rules that you are really interested in. Also work on one rule at a time. So when you are trying to modify rules so it won't block some valid traffic, do not try to work on many rules at once, because it will be hard for you to sometimes identify the root cause of this issue, and it will slow down the update. Instead, once you concentrate on one rule, you can add it to like block mode or even in count mode. And then all other rules that can potentially block your request, they should be set in count mode. So you will definitely know that only this rule was probably the root cause of blocking the request, and that will help you to concentrate on modifications of this exact rule, and not to actually spread your attention to all other rules and try to find where the request was exactly blocked. Use automation to process the WAF logs, because there are a lot of them, and in order to be efficient, you should somehow automate the process and extract only the most useful data from them. It will help you to actually find a lot of useful information and be more effective in terms of how you how quickly, how fast you adapt to the changes. Also, if you're talking about the rules like SQL injection, XSS, there is such term called sensitivity level. So it relates to how easy rule can detect some malicious traffic, and how easy it will be to trigger this rule. So for example, in case with SQL injection, you can add just single quote, but it also can be a part of valid payload. But once you have a sensitivity level high, then a rule can be triggered a lot of time, and even valid traffic could end up in blocking the request. And that's why you should use sensitivity level low, because default settings and default actually this rule statements that are available, they actually can produce a lot of false positives, and that's why you should change the sensitivity level in order to not end up having a lot of false positive actually requests that were blocked by WAF, and by making your AWS WAF itself more effective in terms of detection really malicious traffic. Also, the default view of each rule, it allows you to have like only one, all statements will be only on one level, but at some point you will need to have more complex rules, and for this purpose you should use nested statements, because they will help you to add some required exceptions and cover all the use cases that can be for this rule, and as a result, reduce the level of possible false positives and make the rule more effective. Also, for some patterns that are similar and you do not want to add actually dedicated statements for these patterns, you should use regular expressions wherever possible, and they will help you to actually like reduce the number of rules and make them more effective. Now let's talk about one more important component that we already mentioned in the previous slides, and actually it was in the tips and tricks section. So it is AWS WAF logs parser or monitoring Lambda that will help you to effectively monitor your even multiple AWS WAF instances and extract some interesting information that is important to you in order to stay up to date and in order to allow even one team member to effectively monitor multiple AWS WAF instances easy, and as well as implement some automated response to actually some malicious traffic, because not all rules they from the scratch requires blocking some of the traffic. In many cases, you require some additional processing and additional analysis based on results of this analysis. You will be able to make a decision on whether you should block this IP and this traffic or not. That's why we developed AWS WAF, AWS Lambda, that helps us to deal with this task. So how it works and what are the main functions of this Lambda. It helps you to analyze AWS WAF logs and produces hourly analytics. You can adjust uh, rate, and you can actually adapt to your needs. So you can send an updates once per 2 hours or more. It depends on how often you want to receive these updates. Also, it produces some daily analytics reports that have total information on for the previous day, how many requests were blocked by different rules, what were the malicious blacklisted IPs, and so on. So you can track all the changes in a long-term perspective, especially when we are talking about situations when you do not have a dedicated SOC monitoring center, and actually you are not able to monitor your AWS WAF 24/7. And in these cases, you will be interested in having some analytics, for example, on Monday, in order to understand what was happening during the weekend, and actually stay up to date with all possible attacks that were happening at that time. It sends analytics to Slack because it is widely used tool, and actually by implementing this and integrating with Slack, it helps us to stay more effective. Also, it uses Node.js worker threads for parallel processing of the retrieved AWS WAF logs, so the processing can be done faster, and you will spend less time for running the AWS Lambda itself, as well as you will be able to process more malicious requests. And as a result, it will help you to cover more threads than if you have just one single thread that will work on analyzing the requests. In general, it significantly reduces amount of time required to review AWS WAF logs and monitor it, and it also helps to detect possible ongoing attacks and react to them if there are no already implemented mitigation measures that will be able to deal with these threats automatically. Now let's talk more about the solution architecture. So at core of our solution, we have actually AWS WAF instance and our custom AWS Lambda function that do all the rest. So we associate our AWS WAF with resources that should be protected, and it processes and analyzes requests to our actually backend server. But it also stores logs and that contain information about blocked or counted requests, depending on how we configured our actual login filter to, in our case, it is Amazon S3 bucket. And then we have our Lambda function that is triggered automatically by two CloudWatch event triggers. So we have hourly analytics that process requests for the last hour and sends results of processing to Slack. And we also have daily analytics that works as actually some more enhanced information and contains results for the last 24 hours. So we are able to understand what was happening during these 24 hours. And in many cases, some of the attackers may split their attacks into certain chunks. So they won't send you 100 requests at once. Instead, they will send you 5 requests per hour, and you will be able to track these attacks as well and also react to them. So it gets AWS WAF logs from S3 bucket. Also, after processing, it stores results in the bucket with AWS logs, WAF logs as well. So we can later review them. We can ensure that all is working as expected, and we actually can use it for debugging of AWS WAF Lambda. Then we have integration with Slack, as I already mentioned, and the logs of execution actually are stored in Amazon CloudWatch. So we can use them for debugging our AWS Lambda and react to the situations when something went wrong and we should investigate and fix it. Here is an example of message that our team receives from this Lambda. As you can see, we have, it is a name of environment. We also have, this is like an analytics report for the 24 hours. And we have summary per each rule. Then we have top IP addresses. In our case, it is IP addresses that send the most of requests and the largest number of requests. And here we can see the total count of requests, top requested URLs, and we can see some additional analytics. So we use external sources like Abuse API DB, Threatbook Info, and Virus Total for getting more intelligence regarding this IP address. And actually, it helps us to better understand what was the possible threat and actually do we need to react to this threat, add to block list or something similar. So we are more aware of our attackers and can properly react to these attacks. Lambda also allows you to automatically blacklist IP addresses based on some additional analysis, because as I said, some of the rules, they can be set to work in count mode. So they won't directly block the request, but instead you can analyze these requests with your Lambda, and based on some custom patterns, you can actually then blacklist this IP address. In this case, we can definitely see that there was used a tool, something to WordPress scan, and attackers were trying to actually evaluate or find some interesting files that will allow them to attack the application. And based on the predefined patterns, we can analyze and block this activity. So next time when they will try to reach out the server, the request will be blocked. If you are talking about some key lessons that we learned from implementing this Lambda, they are parallel processing, because it will help you to make your Lambda work faster and actually uh, enhance its capabilities. So the Lambda will be able to process more information and larger number of requests. Also perform basic threat intelligence to provide as much information as possible about detected by WAF requests. You can add some third-party services. You can send this data to some integration, third-party applications. It depends on your needs and on the chosen framework. Then use publicly available threat intelligence services as as we mentioned, VirusTotal, Abuse API DB, also Threatbook Info, but there are also many other. And block malicious IP addresses based on analysis results, because this will help you to actually perform some automated incident response. And when you are not able to, or there is no dedicated person that monitors the Lambda and AWS WAF 24/7, it will help you to actually react to some common threats and actually blacklist these IP addresses for the defined amount of time. That will also help you to protect the application. And regularly share results with the team, because when you are implementing some security protections on the project, in many cases, there are situations when the team just do not understand why we are doing this stuff, if there are no some actual attacks in place. But using this solution, you can easily send the analytics to them and say like, hey, see, these are detected attacks against our infrastructure, against our application server. And as you can see, our defenses are required because attackers constantly trying to improve their methods. And here is payloads. Here are payloads that were blocked, so the team can also learn from them and ensure that all the work that was done, it was required, and actually it helps to even encourage them to work more in this direction and actually improve the protection of the application, because WAF itself, it's not a silver bullet that will prevent all the cases. You should implement defense in-depth strategy, and it includes input validation, input sanitizing, and a lot of other stuff that should be done in place in order to block malicious traffic and in order to prevent attackers from exploiting the application itself. So that's all in terms of presentation. Now let's move to some hands-on demo, and we will start from Web ACL. As you can see, it is attached to Amazon CloudFront. And we have our AWS WAF Security Automations Web ACL that was deployed from CloudFormation template. So here we have our rules that go out of the box, and later you can adjust them according to your needs. Important point to mention, as you can see, there are such thing that called capacity units, and it is important to constantly track them, because once you are reaching more than 1,500 units, you will pay more for your actually AWS WAF implementation, and and in general you cannot exceed like 5,000 computing capacity units, because in that case you will probably need to contact the AWS team directly. And that's all. Helps you to ensure that your rules are as effective as possible and avoid some situations when, for example, because each statement, depending on exactly the chosen option, adds some additional capacity units to your total score. You can use AWS documentation to understand how it works, to understand which statements can cost you like more capacity units. For example, regex statements will cost you more than like byte match statement, and so on. So please ensure that your rules are as effective as possible and that you are not reaching this limit, because it will increase your monthly cost. And actually, in some cases, it can be one of the requirements. So you should constantly keep your eye on it. Then we have associated AWS WAF services. There was like a simple website that I used for this purpose. And we also able to define custom response bodies. So every time we receive every time our AWS WAF blocks some requests, we can send custom response. So in terms of improving our AWS WAF rules, it can help us to define that this rule, that this request was exactly blocked by our AWS WAF, and actually take all required measures in order to fix this, and actually also involve the team into this process, because they will also be able to actually take this into account and react appropriately. Then we have logging and metrics. As you can see, I have some demo bucket, and there we store our actually WAF logs. So here you can have your login filter. If you try to edit it, you have the following options. So in terms of login destination, you have CloudWatch logs log group, you have Amazon Data Firehose stream, and you have S3 bucket. But please keep in mind that your S3 bucket should start from AWS dash WAF dash and then something custom. Then we have our filter. And as you can see, there are only two options. So you have rule action on request, that is low block count, and you have actually request label. And that's why it is important to use rule labels in order to make our monitoring more agile and more flexible, and actually ensure that we are logging appropriate requests. We also have sampled requests. It was recently added by AWS, so you will be able to here to review all the captured requests by your AWS WAF instance. At the current time, this is just a demo, so it does not have some useful analytics that can be used. And you also have CloudWatch login sites, as well as IP sets, where you can define your blacklisting IPs and work with them. Next important component of this solution is AWS WAF monitoring Lambda that we already discussed in our presentation. So as you can see, if you are talking about some configuration, here they are, but please remember that they can be adjusted to your needs, because in every case there can be different requirements, and in some cases such settings regarding the memory and ephemeral storage, they just won't be enough to process the amount of requests that you should deal with. So it depends totally on actually your requests, and should be implemented appropriately. If you're talking about permissions, then we should ensure that our AWS WAF Lambda has access to get IP set details from our AWS WAF, as well as update actually IP set. Then if you're talking about Amazon CloudWatch, then we should create, it will have access to create log groups, create log stream, and put some log events. And then we have access to Amazon S3, where our AWS WAF logs are stored. So we should actually allow required permissions to, in order so Lambda will be able to get logs, AWS WAF logs from S3, as well as then put results of processing into the dedicated bucket, and it will be later used for analytics and some other purpose that will be required by the solution. Let's just quickly review how it works. So we have this demo bucket, and we have two folders. This one was created by the AWS WAF itself, and here we will be able to find our actually AWS WAF logs. As you can see, it has a little bit complicated structure, and then you have these logs that actually can be used in order to extract them and later monitor them. And we also have logs for that were produced by our Lambda function, and they also help to actually effectively review these logs, have some statistics, and later use it in order to further improve your AWS WAF Lambda. Then, if you are talking about the notifications, as you can see here, I have some Slack demo channel where we receive our logs from Lambda function on hourly basis. And actually, here you can see that all the details that was mentioned in the presentation are available here. So the team will be able to review these details. And in case if you have more than one AWS WAF instance, it will help you to effectively monitor them and actually ensure that your protections are good enough to stop attackers from reaching and exploiting your web server. So it is worth to mention that the solution itself, I mean AWS Lambda, is open source, and you can find it and actually use. So I will provide the link in my LinkedIn profile, so you can keep watching this. And also it will be available in the presentation itself. So that's all for today. Thank you for actually watching this video, and I hope that you like this idea and will try to implement this solution on your project as well. So thanks a lot, and actually have a great day.